Become a Leslie's Pro member, and with almost 1,000 locations conveniently located less than 3 miles from your service route, you can quickly get in and out and take care of your customers. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software platform. Listeners of the podcast can try Skimmer for free. Visit my website, swimmingpoollearning.com, and click on the Leslie's Pro and the Skimmer banners to learn more.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
Hi, and welcome to the Best of the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I sit down with chemistry expert Bob Lowry, and we talk about why balancing your pool is important. We go over some of the basic concepts of balancing the pool water, as well as ways to maintain your pool and keep it algae-free all season long. Pool Service Pro. Open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro. I'm joined today by Bob Lowry, and if you don't know who Bob Lowry is, he's probably the premier expert on chemistry in the industry, and he has like 16 books or so or more, and he runs a training course, and he'll tell you more about it himself. How are you doing today, Bob?
Doing great. I'm glad to be here. I'm talking to you today from Lima, Peru, which is where I live.
Yeah, great.
Lived here for 10 years, and but I still do all of my consulting and all of my business in the U.S. and primarily for service techs, but a little bit for retail store and homeowners.
Yes, you want to give the listeners a little bit about your background in the industry?
Well, I got in the industry in 1973, so this is my 47th year in the industry. And my background is that I am a chemist. I have 2 degrees in chemistry, and joined the industry in 73 with a company called Robarb, and we made chemicals in Georgia. In 77, I moved to California and started Leisure Time Chemical, and a partner and I owned that until 1985, and we sold the company for a few million, well, more than that. But anyway, we sold it, and I retired for about 3 weeks, and I started Service Industry News for service techs, and owned that with David Dickman for about 6 years. And I wrote 120 articles about pool chemistry while I was the writer for Service Industry News. Then I sold it and went to work for Leslie's Swimming Pool Supplies, and I was their technical director for 5 years. And then after the Northridge earthquake in 1994, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, actually up in the mountains of Georgia, and semi-retired up there, and was about as busy as I was when I was still working. So I've been a consultant now for, I think, 25 years, and I'm an independent consultant. So I was also a CPO instructor for 21 years. I helped write the CPO manual. I've written 21 books on pool chemistry, and I've written about 175 articles. I've written a column for Pool and Spa News for 2 years, and I've been giving back education to this industry since I got into it, and practically every trade show and expo that's around, I used to be at all of them, giving seminars and classes and things like that. 2 years ago, I started the Pool Chemistry Training Institute, and we are the only organization that actually certifies people in pool chemistry. But it is for residential pools, so as not to be confused with a CPO program. CPO program is about pool operation, and our course is about pool chemistry. And all of it could be used in both kinds of pools, frankly, but our oxidation and disinfection section is for residential pools, not for commercial pools. But all the rest of the chemistry is the same. And I wrote a new book for the course, and the book is called Pool Chemistry for Residential Pools. And you may have seen that I wrote the 2 training manuals for IPSA. And I took the best of those 2 books, in addition to some newer information, and put it into the new book. And the new book also was in color. And so I wrote the book for that. And then I also wrote a new method on how to take care of a pool if you're a service tech. And it's in a book that's only 28 pages long, called The Pool Chemistry for Service Pros. And it's a method of taking care of a pool. And we have now distributed more than 12,000 copies of that book to service techs. And they're following it and having great success with their pools, better water quality, spending less money on chlorine, having less algae, and knowing more what they're doing with the pool. So it's been a really great thing.
That's awesome. And I know that your background takes you in a lot of different arenas out there. Mainly, I think your chemistry background is one of the things that people will know you by. And I think one of the subjects we're going to talk about right now is, why is balancing your pool and spa so important? So you see a lot of old timers out there carrying the phenol red and the OTO, and they just drop it in the pool, or they'll dip a test strip in and look at it, and they figure they're done. So why is it actually important to balance the pool correctly, get the range of the chemistry? Is there a good reason for that?
Well, there really is. The closer you can get to balancing the water, the more stable the pool is going to be. The idea of taking care of a pool for most service techs is to make it stable so nothing changes from week to week to week, or if there are changes, there's only small ones, and they're easier to overcome then, or make an adjustment for them that way. And if you're not getting good test information, it makes it difficult to add the right amount of chemical and get the correct balance. And it is important. And I once did a test in a room full of service guys. I put an aquarium in there, and I adjusted the water so I knew what it really was. And I asked 30 guys to come up and do a flash test with their OTO and phenol red, and there was only 2 guys out of 30 that got the right answers. So doing that is a waste of time. And test strips, as I have told people for years, test strips are fine if you just want to know if the water is okay. If you want to know what the exact pH is, what the exact alkalinity is, what the right cyanuric acid level is, you can't do that with a flash test and a test strip. You can't get the right answer. And you need to have those right answers to be able to balance the pool.
Yeah, so you were mentioning the ballpark reading or a flash test versus, say, like a photometer or photometer. And you mentioned the fact that you want to have more exact readings. So mainly, I think the difference is the more exact you are, the better you can maintain that pool versus the ballpark. So over time, if you're just doing ballpark test strip readings, that pool could be out of balance. Alkalinity could be 60 or 50, and then the pH could not actually be 7.8. It could be even higher. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, but not only that, you're right. But not only that, but the problem comes from if you're only measuring pH and chlorine, you have no idea what the alkalinity is. And alkalinity is a buffer in the water to prevent the pH from going low, but it also is if the alkalinity is too high, it keeps pulling the pH up all the time. So you end up with a problem with going back to the pool week after week after week, and you keep adding acid to get the pH back down, and it goes down, but then it goes right back up because your alkalinity is too high. So if you get your alkalinity to the right place, then the pH won't go up so high.
Yeah, and that goes. Go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
I was going to say, and And that also goes in with the fact that a lot of guys aren't doing the LSI calculation either in the pool. So there's no way to know if it's corrosive or scale forming, which is a ballpark reading, right?
That's right. And those are only ballparks. And then when you add things like chlorine generators and stuff to the water, then you have other problems. And chlorine generators, just because of the chemistry of how you make chlorine, they're going to raise the pH of the pool. In addition, an SWG, because of the turbulence inside, it makes chlorine gas and it makes hydrogen gas. And those bubbles come off of the plates in the cell, and it creates turbulence and aeration. And turbulence and aeration makes CO2 gas off. And when CO2 gas is off, the pH goes up. And so those two things cause the pH to go up quite a bit. And you can offset it by using some borates in the water and using lowering the alkalinity and the pH to compensate for it. So you need to know exactly what they are to be able to get to the right compensation point.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important, especially with the saltwater system. And one other thing that we don't talk a lot about in the industry, and all the customers want to run their pool as short as possible because they want to save the electricity cost. I found that even with variable speed pumps, customers don't like having them running, even when I explain to them that they save money by running them. Besides that point, the circulation of the pool, how important is that in the chemistry balance overall?
Well, it really is. And regardless of what the speed of the pump, the first thing you want to do is attain one turnover of water, at least one turnover per day. So regardless of how many GPM you've got, you need to get enough water through the pump that equals the volume in the pool. And it doesn't matter whether it takes 3 hours or it takes 24 hours, but you need to get a volume of water that's at least equal to the pool through there. And the other thing to think about, and it's more of a logic thing than anything else, and that is if there's no water movement in the pool, if you get some algae spores or some algae in the pool and it's on the wall of the pool, or even some bacteria, suppose you get a biofilm starting to grow, either in the pipes or on the wall, you've got a stationary organism living. And if some of the chlorine in the water that's near that organism, near that biomass, when the chlorine that's in the water works on it, the chlorine gets used. And if there's no water flow, there's no new chlorine coming to where that biomass is. And so it uses up the chlorine that's around it, and then it's not dying from any new chlorine coming to it. So the more stagnant the water, the faster algae is going to grow, and biofilms and everything else is going to happen in the pool.
Yeah, and so one question I get asked a lot by the service guys also is, how do I know the dosage? Let's say I do all these tests and I get the readings. How would I know how much of something to put into the pool to change the parameters? And of course, you have to kind of know at the beginning how many gallons of water or liters of water in the pool to begin with. But from that point, what are some things that they can do to kind of, I know that back in my day, there were some rule of thumbs that we worked off of. I don't know if those are even accurate. You're the expert on it. But when it comes to adjusting chemicals or dosage to get things back in the right parameter, what do you think is the best way to do that?
Well, there's a number of ways. But first of all, we teach in our classes, and I'm an advocate for the fact that the current PHTA guidelines, used to be APSP, but the guidelines that we all use are too broad to be able to take care of the water correctly, seriously. And it's the first thing that's in the 28-page book, Pool Chemistry for Service Pros. It says in there that the ranges are so broad that you can be within the minimum and maximum levels, and you can have scale or corrosive water. So doesn't that indicate that we've got a set of standards that's too broad? To me, in my way of thinking, if you're within standard, you shouldn't be able to have a problem in your pool. So one of the very first things that I do is I tell people, forget about those ranges. What we're going to do is set a target up for each water condition in your pool, and it's one number. And then you'll be able to say, you know, using the current standard, for instance, it says the minimum is 7.2 for pH. The ideal is 7.4 to 7.6, and the maximum is 7.8. And then we come along and say, okay, the pH is 7.3. So what is that? It's right between minimum and ideal. So what is it? Is it okay or what? You know, but if I told you that the target pH is 7.5, you instantaneously know what's wrong with the pool if you go out and it's 7.3, right? So that's the idea. We set up a system of targets instead of a bunch of broad ranges. And that way you can't have a problem if you're on target. And it makes it easy to know what to do in the pool, because if you're off of the target by very much, you automatically know that you need to adjust it. And there are tables in the books that I have. There are tables.
Back in my day, you had the Taylor Watergram. That's what I was using.
Yeah.
And, I'm pretty good at that thing. I don't use it anymore, but I used to be good at spinning that wheel around. And then they had a little manual that you'd flip through, paper manual that get all wet and have stains from all the reagents. So I'm dating myself, but yeah, that's what I used to use in the old days. And then, of course, the rule of thumbs that we used to always use, the old timers. So in your opinion, I can transition to this question here. What do you think is the best way to test the water? Now, I've used all different ones. I have photometers. I have the Lamont Spin Touch. I have digital testers from ITS. I have digital testers from Hawk and Lamont. I have reagents from Taylor. And I think I have an old OTO test kit in my garage, too, that I don't use anymore, but I used to use a long time ago. So what would be the...
I'm going to stop you for 1 second, and I can show you this. This is the screen for the app, for the Pool Chemdos app. And you can see, you just put in the gallons and what you want to change, and then the part per million, and then it lists all the chemicals you need to change it. And it just makes it totally easy to do. And the other one, the new one that I told you about is this one right here, and it is that's the screen that tells you how much you need to add to get to the pH or alkalinity. And they're cool little apps that I spent years and years developing, because it's got the kind of math in it that takes years to do.
So that's why you charge for it too, because it takes time to develop it, and it's something that you should be rewarded for.
Well, but it's not a subscription. A lot of guys sell apps and they make a subscription for it. These are not subscriptions. This one costs $7.99, the other one costs $5.99, and I've got a couple of more apps. But for about $20 or $30, you can buy all the apps and own them, and they're yours forever. So it's actually pretty cheap. You spend that when you go out to lunch a couple of times. So they're really good tools, and I highly recommend it. So
yeah, you can spend that one visit to Starbucks for sure.
Yeah, go buy a couple of Starbucks and you're at 30. Yeah. So at any rate, we're talking about testing, and I believe that you should have a good test kit to get good information. I try not to speak in brands, but there are some good ones out there. And, you need to get one that gives you good, consistent results, but you need to also combine that with some record keeping. And it's really, really important to keep records of what you're doing on a pool. And that's one of the things about flash testing and stuff. Guys that flash test aren't keeping any records. They just go out there and see if the pool's okay this week and okay next week, and they never make any records of anything. And, you ask them, they go, yeah, well, that pool takes a half a gallon a week and so on, but they really don't know. And then all of a sudden they get algae, and they don't know why they got algae, because they've been keeping the pool fine. And, it's summertime, so it must be getting algae. Well, let me tell you something. If you're taking care of a pool and it gets algae, it's your fault. And you can cover it up any way you want to, but if you're taking care of a pool and you get algae, it's your fault. So you're not doing it right if you're getting algae. So um, I think you need a good test kit and probably spend a couple $100 on a test kit, one that you are comfortable using. One of the test kits that I was using, I can say names because I guess it's all right. But for many years I used a Taylor test kit. I know most of us have, but as many years as I used a Taylor test kit, I can't tell you right now how many drops you need to put in to do an alkalinity test. You got to put in 2 of these, 5 of these, and then 4 of those or so. I don't know. And I've done those tests hundreds of times. I still can't remember it. So I have to read the instructions every time I use it. And that to me is kind of a pain in the neck. So there's another company that made one that's called the Color Cube, and it is a photometer. And they made their reagents so that you had 5 drops of everything. So their directions are, take a water sample, add 5 drops of this, and invert it to mix it up and put it in this machine and push the button. And that to me is a whole lot easier than counting drops and trying to figure things out. It's a lot easier and probably more accurate because most of the photometers are more accurate than your eyes. So they can see subtleties in color change when you can't. So I think those are good. I think especially for new guys that aren't used to doing too many tests, perhaps one of the more expensive units like a Spin Touch is a better solution for them. And they're a little bit more expensive, but they're really accurate. They save all the results. You can put it on your phone. You can put it on your computer. You can add notes about what you added to the pool and so on. And for those kinds of things, I think it takes the operator out of the equation. So you're not, did I add 4 drops or 5? Did I miscount? Am I standing in the shade? I'm looking in the sunlight. I got my glasses on and I got my sunglasses on. Is that affecting my reading? So there's all kinds of those things that are involved. And if you just squirt some water in a disc and put it in a machine, you can't do it wrong. Logically too, guys, I talk to them and I say, listen, I know you spent what, $40,000 or $50,000 on your truck, and you got what, $10,000 worth of tools in the back of it, and then you got to go buy what, a $25 test kit, and you need it for every stop, and you're depending on your whole livelihood on that test kit. That's not a good thing to do. You need good professional results if you're going to be in this as a profession, make a living from it.
If you're looking for other podcasts that I did with Bob Lowry, simply go to my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. On the banner, click on the podcast icon, and then it'll take you to the podcast website. In the search box, just type in Bob Lowry, and the podcast that I have done with Bob Lowry in the past will appear there. If you're looking for the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. Real quick, if you're not using pool service software, try Skimmer free for 30 days at getskimmer.com/poolguy. Again, that's getskimmer.com/poolguy. Skimmer, everything you need to run your pool service business all in one app.